So yeah, for each associated topic, right? So we have like the solidity topics, which are primitive data types, mappings, structs, modifiers. Essentially, you can come in here, or you can go into the Discord channel, right? And I've been trying to link some content that allows you to kind of go through each topic in a kind of like a step-by-step basis, and like almost in like a lab style. The links that are on the current Growic site, which are here, pull that real quick. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, this one is an internal one, so I can't share that one. But I'll just use this as a reference. This one's like our internal one that we're using for notes. So you can just reference this, I guess is what I'm saying. And then you can reference the Discord channel. So I'll put them into the Discord channel because that should be like the single source of truth. So like for primitive data types here, if you're on the Discord, if you go up, you'll find that I have my bit bucket that I pushed right here. And this has like, okay. Yeah, I can paste, let me paste this into the Google chat so at least you have that. Let's see where I'm used to using Google chat. 1 second here. Where's chat? There it is. Okay, so it's there. So these are like just kind of like walkthroughs there. So like this example is like, all right, well, this is how you set up Scaffold-ETH, which is already in the curriculum. But then we go through and we explain all of the variable types, you know, global variables, the scope of those variables, and then we go through like a demo. And these are kind of like examples. So as you go through, they kind of like build on each other, right? So if you go all the way to the bottom, there's a link to back to the main menu, and there's a couple more. There's also mappings, and there's also one for structs. So for like last week, it was primitive data types and intro to blockchain. This one was, this week was mapping and structs. So if you go to mappings and you go to the demo steps, and these kind of like show you like what a mapping, how it works. I basically took the solidity by example and I just kind of expanded on it and just made it a little bit more interesting and a little bit more like understandable. So I kind of like mashed up solidity by example and then some other tutorials that I found on YouTube and kind of put them together. So this is how you do a basic mapping, how you update the mapping, how you create an array with a mapping, how you do nested mappings, and then after that, then you can learn structs and then go back to the main menu and then structs as well. So the structs, same thing, it's set up Scaffold-ETH, and then this is how you do a basic struct. This is how you define variables in that structure. And there's an example of how you would do each different like food, right? Yeah, so it's more like walkthrough style. I think that might help you out as well. And so again, my goal is to try to do that for like all of the topics. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get to it. I'm going to try to do it for these other sections as well. But I think that will help you get started particularly. And then anything that's not there, you can come here and go to Smart Contract Programmer on YouTube also. I'll try to post these videos in the Discord chat as well, so try to get on there. But the Smart Contract Programmer here, he does all of the solidity by example videos. He writes the examples, and he also writes the tutorials. So you can come through here and find all of his videos with the examples, which are just kind of good ways to like expand on the topic above and beyond what's inside of the Growic stuff. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you have problems. What about cooking cryptos? I've seen you on here before. How are you going along, and do you have any questions? Okay. Okay, cool. So, yeah, no problem. So my thought was maybe I could try to go through some of the content, I guess, right now, since no one else has joined yet. I think someone was on, but they hopped off. So maybe I can kind of walk through the process for you guys a little bit. So I've actually already got Scaffold-ETH up and running here. Oh, someone joined real quick. Let's see. Oh, that's just someone internally. Okay. So I've already got like Scaffold-ETH up and running here, and I've already kind of spun up the default contract here as well. So if you followed along the previous stuff, you'd notice this is like where we're pretty much primarily working, right? Is inside this. So I think for today, I'll try to get through mappings at least. So the concept of a mapping is really that you're just mapping one variable to another variable. Real quick, someone else joined. Okay. I hear these random dings and I'm like, is someone waiting? Okay, so yeah, the general concept is that you are trying to map one variable to another. So let me share my screen here. Sorry, I forgot that I stopped sharing my screen. Okay, so so I've got the basic Solidity example. Can you guys see my screen? Okay, so default contract. So again, mapping is the concept where you're just taking one variable and then mapping it, kind of like linking it to another value or to another type of variable, right? And then you name that mapping. So you might say something like mapping, and then you would do like what the key is, right? So, and then you would do like what the actual value needs to map to, and then you would name it. So in that kind of format, right? So let's pretend that we want to keep a mapping of balances for a specific user. So we would do like mapping, and we would say that we want to keep track of addresses, or a specific address variable, and we want to map that to a uint, an unsigned integer, so a number, right? So that we can keep track of the balance. Let's make it publicly available so that we can access it outside of the contract, and let's call it balance. So this is the format. So you're saying, what are we mapping from? What are we mapping to? What's the key? What's the value? And what's it called? And how is it available? Is it available publicly, internally, or privately? Just to kind of clarify on that, if it's private, it's only available in the current contract. If it's internal, it's available inside the current contract and any inherent contracts. So if you have more than one contract or interface, I believe as well, that you're inheriting, you can use that inside of both of those contracts. But if you make it public, then it can be accessed outside of the contract. Basically a function is created so that you can access it and see the values of it. It's called a getter, right? So if you make it public, you'll get a getter. So you really, if you want to use that variable in your dApp, in your front end, you would always make it public. Hope that makes sense. So we don't need the other one. So this is just, we're going to create a really basic one here. And then we're going to reference that mapping. So let's say we want to create a function so we create a new function. We'll call it set address mapping, right? And this is all in the thing I shared as well. And we'll say address, and we'll call it ADDR, and we're also going to take in a uint and call it _uint. We're going to make this a public function so it's available outside of the contract. And then what we're going to do is take that balance mapping, we're going to reference the address that we're passing into the function, and then we're setting the value of that as the uint that's being passed into the function as well. So this is how you update a mapping. You just reference the mapping name, which is balance. You pass in the key, which is here, the address, so in this case _address that we're passing into the function. And then you specify the value, which in this case it has to be an unsigned integer that we're also passing in the function as the value, right? So doing that would allow us to, let's save that, and then let's do a deploy. I think I have it over here. Let's see. Okay, it deployed successfully. So now we can go to the debug contracts folder, and we can see if it loads. No, it's not loading. It's kind of weird. Okay, there we go. That was weird. Okay, so I don't have any funds. Let's get some funds just so I have some funds. So we still have the default set purpose and the variable here because we didn't remove that. But now we have a balance function, which allows us to just automatically get the balance of any address. So let's take our address here and let's put it in here and paste it. This is the getter function that I was telling you about. So send, we have no balance, right? So if we want to add a balance, let's say that this was a function where we were going to be distributing tokens or something like that. We could paste in, you could send over the address in the function, and then we could give a value, so 777, and hit send, boom. And then we can check the address again, and we should have 777. So it's just a mapping, again, it's just mapping one variable, which in this case it's an address, to an unsigned integer, and then this is the getter to reference that. So it's pretty straightforward, right? Next, we can do a delete function, so we can actually like remove from as well. Oh, let me just reference what the return function might look like if you were going to get it first. So you could also do get address mapping. We could pass in the address as ADDR as an. And by the way, this is my thing. Any variable that I'm only using internally, I usually do underscore, just so I know it's only an internal variable. It's just something that I do. And then we say public view, and we say it returns value, right? And then we're going to have it return a unsigned integer because that's what comes back from the mapping, right? And what we can do is we can say return, and we can say the balance, and then we can pass in the ADDR, which is passed across in the function, like that. Okay, and then while we're here, let's just do the other one too. Let's create another function. So this function will let us set it. This function will let us get it, right? Because it's actually returning the value. And then this function is going to let us delete it. So let's say that we'll call it delete address mapping. By the way, best practice is always functions should be lowercase. So that's why I do all those lowercase. And then if it's a camel case in the sense of any additional like nouns or vowels or whatever, are just camel cased with a cap, so that's easy to read. So address. So in this case, we're going to pass in the address again, and underscore address. We're going to make it publicly available, and we are going to, in this case, we're going to delete the balance. ADDR, like that. So let's save those three, and let's redeploy again. Make sure I didn't do any syntax errors. Oh, I spelled something wrong. So public view returns, not return. Let's deploy that again. Okay, that deployed successfully. So let's load that and see what that looks like. Okay, so now we can come here and let's grab our address again. Let's just see if we have a balance. We don't, because it reset basically. So what we can do is set it to whatever we want. So 888 send. And we can check it to see what it is. It's 888. And now we can also use this function if we wanted to as well, which is basically the same as this, but I'm just showing you how it works. So 888. Or we can delete it. So we can just reference the key and just delete the entire mapping. So if I do that, delete it, and then come back and reference it, it should be 0. There it is, back to 0. So that's how you define a mapping, that's how you add to a mapping, that's how you get and delete a mapping, okay? You can also do arrays with mapping as well, so you can like do stuff like, I'll show you. So we do uint, we say it's an array like this. We can make it publicly available, and we'll call it a uint array. And we can make it equal like something like this, 777. You can define it like that. And then a string array might look like this, string. I'm just showing you guys some examples of how you might do like array data. So I'm going to call it string array. And we'll call it Bob, Alice. Okay. All right. So this is how you would do like a string. This is how you do a uint array. And then what we can do is keep track of. We'll get rid of this one just for simplicity, and I'll show you how we do it with a uint. So we do like mapping address. So we keep track of a specific address to a string array, right? We'll make it public, and we'll call it interests. So let's change these interests to something else, like hiking, jogging. Right, and we can do that, and then we can. I'm just going to copy paste this so we're saving some time here. But basically, like here's an example of how you would create a function that sets the interest for a specific key, which is here's the address, and it references the string, multiple strings in this case. So in this case, we're taking two different strings, and we're referencing that, and we're adding the array to the mapping. So it's a way for you can define a value of the mapping as an array if you want to keep track of more than one thing in that mapping. So let's save that and let's deploy. Actually, just so we're like clearing up the space, let me also like delete some of this other stuff. Like, I'm gonna get rid of these ones just so it's easier for you guys to read. Let's actually get rid of the purpose too. Like, let's just make it easier. This is all the stuff from the Hello World stuff. Okay, so now we should just have a couple things. Let's do it. Let's deploy it. Okay, so now let's come here. So now we have we can grab an address. We can set the key as that address, and then we can say, I don't know, let's say I like to hack. And I also like to dance. Send. So I just updated I basically took the hack and dance, put it into the array of those two strings, and put it into the mapping. So now what we have is a dictionary-based mapping. So we can have or an array-based dictionary of that mapping. So now I can say, well, what is the 0, which would be the very first entry of that particular key. So we can say 0, send, and there we go, we got hack. Then we can say, well, what's the second one, or first one, which would be second one, is the dance. So you can see how we're able to reference each variable inside of that array that's tied to the mapping, right? So you have to reference the number of that using mapping. So this might be a way that you do like more complex data structures. Let's see what else. There's another example on the GitHub to do a push. I won't go through that. Trying to think what else I can show here. Yeah, so that's pretty basic. I mean, that's the general concept of mappings. Does anyone have any questions about any of that stuff? There's some new people on, so I want to give them a chance to see if they have any questions before I kind of move on. Sam or Valerie, how's everything going for you guys? Do you have any questions about any of the content that you've been following or anything you're working on? No? Okay. Sam, I've seen you here a few times. Hopefully everything's going well. Okay. All right. Well, you can send me a question. Yeah, you can type it here, or you can send it to me on Discord as well. Or I can answer a question that does not have to do with the session as well, since we're all together and everyone will learn anyway. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so you can just, I mean, the easiest way to do it actually is just to go directly to Scaffold-ETH to set that up. So I think there's something in the curriculum that walks you through it. Let me see. That's actually really funny. We don't have it in the curriculum. It was in my session that I did with everybody. So there's a recording of me on YouTube going through it. So let me share that with you real quick. 1 second. Yeah, let me grab the video and I'll paste it here just so you have it. But there was a video, the introduction video that I did. It's also in Discord. So again, I think that's why like Discord's probably best if you get on there, because then you'll be able to see. Yeah. Yep, no problem. I'll paste that in here shortly. Let's see. Yeah, no, that's okay. Oh, yeah, what is it? Mm-hmm. Trying to think why it wouldn't work. Is it just the ERC 721 example that you're going through, where you're just calling like mints, and then you're passing in the string of the variable or something like that? Like, can you paste it in the chat so I can see which one you're trying to? Oh, the 1155 one. Okay. So you're doing, okay, so it's the quantity. And what error are you getting when you try to do it as a function? You're just not creating it? Mm-hmm. Have any value? Gotcha. Yeah, why don't you, just so we don't like take up everyone else's time, shoot me a Discord with like the info, and I'll see if I can help you through it after this. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no problem. Okay, let me, what I'd like to do now is just go through like, I guess, a little bit of the next part, which is structs. Let's see if we have some structs examples here. Okay, let me share my screen again. Okay, so if we're talking about a struct, so the way structs work is they're kind of like this, and let me just get rid of all this stuff. Kind of just focus on structs. So structs are a way to do like also complex kind of data structures. It's not in the sense that you're mapping one to another, but you're actually keeping track of like a set of variables. So let's just do an example of what it would look like, and then I can kind of explain it. So we do something like this, where we're keeping track of a string, which is the name of a particular food, right? And then we do an integer, unsigned integer, and we call it index, which is like the, I don't know, maybe it's like the number of the food, or something like that, or maybe it's like the amount of food that we have available to us. We could do whatever we want, but the whole point is that we're doing a couple variables, right? So we can first you have to define the struct, which is like the format. You can think of it as like the format of the data structure. And then you can basically define the variable that references the struct. So in this case, we'll give it a couple examples of what that would look like. So we have one called food, right? And then we have another one that could be an array of foods. So we would call that public foods, right? So this is if we wanted to define a variable that's just referencing one particular food. This is one if we were going to be referencing an array of foods, right? And then so let's see what an example of that would look like in a function. So if we had a function and we said pizza, and we would say make it external available, and then we would say that we would reference that food struct that or food variable that we're creating, and then we would put it into memory. So basically memory is just going to say that we're only going to be utilizing the memory to define the values of that variable. So in this case we'll call it food, and we'll make it equal to the struct of the value. So in this case it is name equals sushi. Oh, we have to wrap this in a string as well. So sushi, and then pass in the amount, which is the index that we're talking about. And we could just call this whatever we want, but we'll just do it here as index. Why did I put amount? So it's actually just an amount here. Yeah, that's right. 9. So we're passing in 9 there, and then close that off. And then, so this loads the struct data into the variable in memory here, and then the next value is going to basically do what's called foods.push. So it's going to push the values into that array like this. So now if we save that and deploy, make sure it worked first. So we did. And let's go back here. Okay, so we can see that we have pizza. So if I send a transaction to this pizza function, it should create a value called pizza with a value of 9. So 9 slices of pizza. So there we go. And if we can reference that number of the array that we're referencing, so in this case it was the very first entry we did, so it's a 0. We hit send, and then we can see, oh sorry, it was not pizza, it's sushi. 9 pieces of pizza, or sushi. So we have the name of the string, which was the food name, and then we have the number that's in that value as well. So this allows us to do, and like if we wanted to keep track of something else about the sushi, like maybe, I don't know, the type or something like that, we could do string, and we could say type of sushi here, and then we could also pass that in as well here as type, and then we could say, I don't know, hand roll or something like that. You can tell I like sushi. All right, let's deploy that, see if that works. Probably get something in. String type. It might be that variable is reserved for something. Sushi string type. Let's try this. Just like the reserved variable. Okay, that worked. So type is like a reserved name, so it wouldn't let me use that. So let's try it again. So we can say here, yeah, why did we call it pizza? So I'm making all sorts of mistakes here. So this should actually be called sushi. Sorry. Let's redeploy that. Okay. So if I send it here again, and then we get the 0 and reference it, and then you can see it, boom. So now we have like more of a complex data structure. So the name of the food, hand roll, and then the number. Yeah, so I'll have to fix that on the walkthrough. So yeah, you can see that's pretty basic. You can also do things, I want to just show like how you would do like other ways, I guess, to update the value as well. So you could, this way is like where you're just like passing in this kind of like object in this kind of like JSON-y kind of structured way. What we could do is we could do something like function, we'll call it this one rice, right? And we make this one external. And you could do something like this where you say food. We'll call it memories because we can name it the same as the other variable because it's not going to conflict because it's an internal inside of the function, so we'll keep it the same name. And we'll call it food just for redundancy, just to make sense to keep it the same. And then, sorry, we'll do that. So first we define the struct value there. Then what you can do is you can do something like this. We can do food.name equals rice, right? I mean, you can also do like underscore food dot amount equals, I don't know, 400 pieces of rice. And then you can do like underscore, what we have to do, type. So food dot type. So type food equal carbs. So that works. And then the last thing, so this is important to know. All this is in memory. So this does not do anything. This is just building the struct and the value for the struct into the variable into memory. So this is the most efficient way to do it into Solidity. And then the last thing you need to do is you need to do a foods.push and then push that object. That's. So let's save that one. And let's deploy that. Just make sure I didn't do any errors. It looks good. Okay, that worked. So let's go back and look at that. So we have so first let's do the sushi. We sent that. Now let's do rice. Let's send that. Okay, so those both worked. So we know that those are two different ways that you can kind of like push data into the structure. So now if I go 0, send, it's going to give me sushi. So 9 hand rolls. But then if I go to 1, it's going to be rice, carbs, and 400. Right? Pretty straightforward. Trying to think if there's anything else that really is worth talking about. There's some other examples on that walkthrough. I'll paste it into the chat real quick here so that you guys have it. In case you guys want to go through it. There was that one mistake. I'll have to go through and add that and change it in. It's right there. Any questions about any of the struct stuff? Okay. Alrighty. Well, I think that's pretty much it today. Yeah, if you guys have any issues, I'll be on Discord, and then yeah, just let me know, Sam, about that, and I'll follow up. Send me those details through Discord, and I'll help you out with that. And I'll pass it. I'll upload this recording a little bit later too as well. Cool. Thank you guys. Have a good rest of your day.